right. You don't want anything warmer on?
No,
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Should we get started?
Let's not.
You are listening to the SuperFast Podcast with M. David Peterson and
Jacie Peterson. Good
Okay.
morning.
Good morning. It is our morning here, and we are at the end of our fasting day. So we're about to break our fast, which we're looking forward to.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the bananas that I can eat later.
And the bananas are a good example of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about today craving and impulse.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
what is the difference between a craving and an impulse, and what should you do for each one of them?
And it took us a long time to differentiate these two terms also, right?
So have you ever snuck a piece of cake in the middle of the night or when no one was looking?
Have you?
I definitely have. I was at a friend's house one time, and they had a tres leche cake. Tres leche cake it basically means 3 milks.
Okay.
And these things are wonderful. I hadn't had a piece of tres leche cake since I had lived in the Southwest of America. So for years, and maybe 5 years, I hadn't had a tres leche cake. And I tasted a piece because I was on vacation. I was at a friend's house staying with them. And I thought, well, I'm gonna splurge. It wasn't a splurge day. The whole vacation ended up being a splurge, as you will find out. But I took a piece, and it was so good, I took a second piece. And it was so good, I took a third piece at my friend's family gathering. And I said, I hope nobody minds. I haven't had a piece of tres leche cake for years and years and years. And they said, no, nobody else wants it. Go ahead, have it. Well, that was kind of an invitation to have the entire cake. I ate that entire cake, and I would be looking around. The next day, no one was there. The next day, no one was there. I took a piece of tres leche cake and ate it. And I noticed as over the course of many days that I was the only one eating this cake, and I ate the entire cake.
So what do you think of it? It's an impulse or craving? What do you think?
It was definitely impulse. It felt like a craving, though. And that's why it's so difficult to know the difference between the two, because it feels like I was craving tres leche cake, but there was nothing in that cake that my body needed. There was nothing that I was craving. All I could say at the end of it was, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Yeah. And I still can't.
So impulse doesn't only happen to kids. It happens more.
Well, have you ever done anything like that?
When I was a kid, I did.
Okay. Don't say it like that. You're saying it in a judgy way there.
Sorry.
I mean, so it happened to you as a kid. Tell me what happened.
So we went to our grandma's home during the Spring Festival. And it's a holiday for kids to have a lot of snacks. So I saw the candies I love. So I started to pick all of them and save them in my pocket. I believe the adults, my relatives around, saw that, but nobody really said anything because, come on, it's a holiday. It's the biggest holiday a year. So I keep all of them, and when I go back home, I can eat anytime I want, slickly.
At the risk of being banned in China for pointing out bad Chinese behavior, we have seen videos of Chinese people, piling shrimp onto their plates and practically putting it into their pockets and not eating all of it at buffets. So we've seen that. But as a child, that's cute. We laugh. It probably was very cute to see little tiny Jacie taking these candies and putting in her pocket. Very cute, very, very adorable, actually. So no one said anything. But as an adult, it is really kind of disgusting. I mean, I am still disgusted with myself for eating that entire tres leche cake.
But it could be considered as craving because you haven't had that leche cake for how long? Years and years, right?
Years and years, at least 5 years. At that point, I'd been living in China for 5 years, so it had been at least that long. And I didn't eat that. See, it surprised me because I didn't eat that much tres leche cake 5 years before that, previous. I didn't. So, okay, so it might have been a craving. So today we're gonna look at the differences between impulses and craving. We'll determine at the end if it was an impulse or a craving.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So we have been doing this since 2016. And what is this? We have been super fasting since 2016. So it's been over 5.5 years at this point. We have coached people on fasting, fitness, and diet, whole food. We eat a whole food plant-based diet. And before 2016, I got up to around 200 pounds or 95 kilograms.
I think it was pushing to 55 kg, which should be around 110 pounds, right?
Okay, that sounds about right.
And with my size, that's a lot for me, okay, because I'm a short woman, so I was overweight at that time.
And you were overweight. I loved you even though you were overweight, and you loved me. You married me when I was fat. But we discovered a year or so later, 2 years later, intermittent fasting. I had some diseases that were long-term, type of chronic type of thing. And I go into that in my book. And so I also did long-term fasting that would help get rid of that. And I took intermittent fasting and long-term fasting, turned it into super fasting with a whole food plant-based diet and exercise, which includes high intensity interval training, endurance, and resistance training with weights. And we've been doing that for 5.5 years, and we've kept the weight off. But most importantly, we've kept healthy. We've maintained our health. Those chronic incurable diseases went away with the fasting and the whole food plant-based diet and the exercise. And I've maintained health and this weight for 5 years. Over 5 years. So I wrote a book, and the book is called SuperFast, Fasting for SuperHealth. And you can find it on kobo.com. And I will post a link in the description of this podcast. And the series name for the book is SuperFast, SuperFit, Superfood, Superhuman.
Yeah.
So
there are several books coming up.
And we can teach you how to be superhuman through fasting, superfood, and being super fit. And if you order the ebook on kobo.com, I will give you 1 hour of personalized consultation free. If you like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification button. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a written comment or a voice comment, if you can, in the comments below, and we might feature it on our next podcast. One of my Facebook friends, Steve and Mark, wrote, "Can this be my Christmas gift?"
Sure.
The book.
It will be the best.
And I wrote,
Christmas gift.
"It sure can. The best gift to yourself is health." And folks, it's not too early or late to think about your New Year's resolution. If you have resolved that you want to lose weight, we can help you. Buy my book, give us a call.
And it's not only just a best Christmas gift for you, it's a Christmas gift for everyone, because health is the most important thing for everyone now, especially at this stage, right?
With coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Health. It will keep you from getting the coronavirus. If you get it, it won't be as bad, and you'll clear it a lot quicker. We're going to do a podcast on that in the future. At this point in the show, I would like to go to questions from our listeners or viewers. And this question, now, please, listeners, understand that I won't use your name if I cannot get in contact with you to use your question. So this one, I couldn't get in contact with the person. So here is the question from Anonymous. In a video podcast about splurge days, you mentioned listening to your body. What does that mean?
We didn't really talk much about listening to your body.
We didn't, because we prepared for the podcast, the video podcast, and we got to that point. We said a whole bunch of stuff about it, but I couldn't use it in the podcast. So, all right. So here's the answer, Anonymous. our bodies don't speak English. So our bodies don't speak to us in English. But we have to learn, our bodies do communicate with us. And so we have to learn how to listen to our bodies as far as splurge days, as far as cravings and impulses, this kind of stuff. So what it does tell us, it tells us one of the things that most of us still get from our body is hunger and thirst. When you're thirsty,
you know to drink.
You know to drink, whether that be coffee or water or Pepsi. Now, your body doesn't tell you to drink Pepsi or Coke or coffee, actually. But we should be drinking water only, but we drink coffee, water, and tea on our fasting days. And most days at this point, we don't drink sodas or sugary beverages much, only on splurge days. And at that, only maybe once or twice a year. Yeah. Anyway, so thirst, that's your body talking to you. Another way that your body talks to you
is through the reaction on your body.
That is correct.
So what kind of reaction you can see from your body?
Yes, the reaction of our body, when acne is a really good way that your body speaks to you. If you break out in blemishes, acne. I eat every once in a while as a splurge potato chips. And every time I eat potato chips, the next day I get a little pimple on my nose, mainly, but sometimes it goes to my face. And that is my body saying, that wasn't a good thing. You shouldn't have done that.
For me, if I did the same thing, my reaction for my body is constipation. It happened right away.
Constipation, and not necessarily with potato chips, but other types of splurges can be constipating, and constipation is a way that your body talks to you. So, and that reminds me of a song. Constipation
There's a song
is making me wait. Yeah. Anticipation, constipation,
okay.
It rhymes. Anyway, so inflammation and weight gain is a way. 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. So we don't really think that that's our body talking to us. But when our body inflames, which obesity is and overweight is a form of inflammation, but also taking in fat. It's a way of our body, storing fat. It's a way for our body to say, you're eating the wrong things. You need to change your lifestyle. You need to move more.
We talked about this before when, in another podcast, that when we drank beer one time to celebrate the New Year or Christmas, we drank a lot. So next day, our ankles started to swell up. So that's kind of our body talking to us like, oh, you did something really bad to your body.
That's right. And behind us on the hearth, we have actually 4 bottles of beer, but it's on our splurge day, we had the Christmas beer, and the other bottles are from people who lived here before. And I like those beers. I've had them before. So I kept the bottles up on the hearth.
As decoration.
Another way our body speaks to us silently is through hypertension, high blood pressure. Our body is telling us that our lifestyle is not correct, our diet is not correct, or maybe we're eating too much salt. And so our blood pressure goes up. And the only way, we did a video podcast on hypertension and how to take your own blood pressure and how to buy a machine and monitor your blood pressure, because that will tell you. And when I drink too much beer or something like that, or eat too many potato chips, or don't get enough exercise, my blood pressure does go up slightly now because we're fasting and we're keeping it low, but it does go up. Another way, aches and pains is another way that our body communicates with us.
Yeah, especially like knee pain. We found that when we ate something sweet and more sugary, it started to cause the knee pain right away. That's
right. And sugary, another way our body talks to us kind of silently is tooth decay. If we're eating too much sugar, tooth decay. I saw a documentary where the guy said that ancient peoples did not have
this problem, right?
Problems if they didn't eat a lot of sugar. And now that we eat a lot of sugar, we have a lot of tooth decay. This is something your dentist isn't going to tell you, because your dentist will go out of business if you know that cutting down on sugar will cut down on tooth decay. So there you go. And then we have bad breath and body odor is another way that our body talks to us and says, you're not doing stuff correctly. Disease, type 2 diabetes, dry skin, hair falling out, fingernails. We can actually tell how healthy we are by the look of our fingernail. Smelly poo. We've talked about constipation, but if your poo is very smelly, that's your body saying you're doing something wrong.
And maybe you will notice when you eat more vegetables or salad, this kind of thing, your poo doesn't smell that bad as when you were eating more meat products.
Well, my poo does not stink. Well, it doesn't now because I'm eating whole food plant-based and I'm fasting. So that helps to make it so that our poo doesn't stink.
That's true.
But when we eat splurges, then sometimes our poo does stink. When we have our first bowel movement after a long-term fast, because of the toxins that build up, it's very, very offensive.
Special smell.
Well, special is an interesting way of putting it.
Because it also get out of all the poo that remained attached on your colons, right? So it stay there for a long time. So after fasting, you will wash them out. That's why it smells weird.
I couldn't have said it better. And then really the last thing that our bodies talk to us about, and we may or may not know about them, and that is vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Our bodies tell us that we're deficient in these things, and it comes out in the ways that we just described. Disease, body odor, bad breath, knee pain, inflammation, weight gain, hypertension, aches and pain. This is how our body's telling us that we're deficient in vitamins and minerals. And most Americans are deficient in vitamins and minerals. Diet alone can stop that from happening, even if you're fasting. But and then our impulses and cravings might be from vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And that kind of takes us into our topic of cravings and impulses and cravings.
I hope we answered our audience question. It's a long answer, but
of how to listen to your body. And that's why we decided to do impulses and cravings now after that. So based on that question. So ask your questions and we will answer them. All right. So what is a craving?
What is a craving? Well, before I didn't know, but now I have a little bit idea about what craving is. I think of it for a long, long time. I cannot get it out of my mind. I think that is kind of craving reaction.
That is correct. And we're going to talk about that right now because I write about impulses and cravings in my book. So in my book, I write, quote, "A craving is constant and persistent. We cannot dismiss it. We do not forget from one day to the next, nor do we forget 1 week to the next. Nothing but the item desired will rid us of the feeling of want. A craving is visceral. We feel the craving in our lower abdomen. Even our monkey mind cannot bring us relief from the object of our craving. We go out of our way to experience the object many times to steal but a glimpse." I did that with pumpkin. I love pumpkin. But back to the quote, "Before we can purchase it and satisfy our longing, it is our body's way of communicating with us. Our body does not lose sight of what it lacks. It constantly reminds us of its desire with a dull ache of pining in the pit of our stomach. Resistance is futile. However, when we capitulate to a craving, it dissipates, fades away, and recedes for years. We remain satisfied for a long time, and we easily resist the item without the feelings of deprivation that accompany so many diets." We need to listen to our body because when we crave something, our body needs something, it lacks something, it wants something, and we remember it. We remember it for a very long time. So
feels like a torture.
It can, but since we know we can have it on a splurge day, if it's a bad craving, or on any eating day, if it's a good craving. I mentioned pumpkin. I used to like to go by the cafeteria food where they were making the food just to look at it, just to resist temptation, to resist impulse, and to build my powers of delayed gratification. But every time I saw pumpkin, I would pine for it. I would be like, oh, I can't eat that, but I want it. The thing is, I knew that I could eat pumpkin on my eating day, so I could wait.
So basically, actually, we shouldn't ignore the craving, because maybe your body is telling you that you need some mineral or nutrition from those food, right? So we cannot just totally ignore it. Like at some point, you really want broccoli, radish, right?
I for a very long time, I craved broccoli. You would ask me every eating day, like, what do you want in your dish? And I would be like, broccoli.
I say again,
broccoli, broccoli. And
you definitely need something.
So I need something from the broccoli. And our bodies don't tell us, hey, you need sulforaphane from broccoli. They don't order that. Like our gut bacteria will tell us what to eat, but it doesn't say, I want broccoli. It just knows that it wants vegetables. And so maybe my body also needs the sulforaphane. So I say, okay, I want broccoli. So we listen to our body because it will tell us what we want. And the craving is one way for it to do it.
I have another question.
Okay.
How long should we wait to satisfy our craving? Because it's about the time, the game of time, right? To tell what is craving, what is impulse. So how long should we wait to satisfy?
Yes. Well, if it's as I said, if it's a good craving, then you can eat it on your eating day, the next eating day. You can satisfy it right away. Absolutely. Okay. But if it's a bad craving, if it's a Krispy Kreme donut, let's say, which there's no reason for you to crave a Krispy Kreme donut because it doesn't have anything but sugar, and you get that in other ways. But if it's a bad craving, if it's a splurge, you should wait until at least a week. Now we go on Friday to buy our splurges for our Saturday splurge. And so if you see something and you want it, you should probably wait until the next Friday to get it. So in order to find out if it's a craving, you should wait. And if you remember it all the way until you go to purchase your splurge meal the next Friday or the next splurge purchasing day, then you can go ahead and get it and figure that it's a craving. And cravings can actually last over weeks. You know, so one of my cravings was corn chips in Thailand. I loved the corn chips and I craved them and I thought about them all the time. I want corn chips for our splurge day. I want corn chips. And so for 8 weeks, we got corn chips.
Just like my feeling for seafood. I kept thinking of it like the week before last, I couldn't get paella. So I was a little bit disappointed because I always think of it. That's right. And
I craved devil chips in Thailand. It was really good. They put the peppers in the potato chips, which makes it extremely hot. And it might have been something from the peppers that I needed, but ate the corn chips for 8 weeks and then ate the potato chips for 8 weeks on the splurge day. And so eventually, though, you get sick of it and it does dissipate. It does fade away over time and you replace it with other cravings.
So this is when we satisfy our craving. At one point, it will fade away, right? But what if we don't satisfy our craving? Will it still go away?
That is a very good question. And I think it will go away. But that's because our bodies don't say, I want sulforaphane. Our bodies say, send me down what I want. If we ate bacon double cheeseburgers all the time, then our body would just say, I'm deficient in something. I need something. And we would feed it what we normally feed it. So we feed our bodies vegetables. And so we eat broccoli. We feed it broccoli. So, but if we don't feed it broccoli, the craving will go away because we might get that whatever we need, we might get it in another way from other things. So if you wait long enough, it will go away.
So is it possible that we could have several cravings at the same time? Like I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want all of this. Then all my cravings, could it be possible?
Definitely. And at the beginning of our fasting journey,
Yes,
we
that's
had many cravings. We wanted many things.
Yeah.
And we couldn't tell the difference between impulse and cravings at that time because we didn't listen to our body when we were fat. We didn't hear our body when it was talking to us. So one time when I was picking up Jacie at the airport, I saw a picture of a Burger King bacon double cheeseburger. I had 2 hours to wait for her to get there. And I thought, I'm going to have one. And so I had it. I ate it. The first bite was wonderful. And by about halfway through, my bacon double cheeseburger, fries, and a soda, I was sick of it. But I forced myself to eat that whole thing because that's how I am and was at the time. But I have come to realize that that was an impulse. But anyway, so I had that craving and I had corn chips and I had double chips, but we can only eat so much on our splurge day. So we don't get to all of our cravings and eventually they may go away.
So basically that answered my next question. Can we satisfy all the cravings at the same time? Basically you said that we can only eat that much. So even though we have a lot of cravings, we cannot just finish all the cravings in one day. Since we set Saturday is our splurge day. Okay, you might set one day as your splurge day. You cannot really eat that much in one day.
Right. So when we had a lot of cravings, we couldn't satisfy it in one day. But now that we don't have a lot of cravings, we can.
Yeah.
If we have a craving once a month now, it seems like once a month we have a craving. You crave seafood. In Thailand, you craved corn because we weren't eating a lot of it. And that's probably why I craved the corn chips on splurge day. So corn is not a splurge. We can eat that any eating day, but corn chips should be held off until the splurge day. So now that we don't have a lot of cravings, we have to actually figure out what we're going to have on our splurge day, how we're going to eat on our splurge day. And so we just kind of fill it in with whatever comes to mind.
That's why it's important to have a shopping list before you start to shop for your splurge day, because we'll discuss and decide what's the splurge meal, the one meal for our splurge day.
Our splurge day.
We both agree on, because we sometimes have different cravings for different food. So we have to agree on one thing. So sometimes I have to compromise. Sometimes you have to, right?
And your seafood craving is the perfect example because I don't crave it. You do. So sometimes I nix that and say, nah, I don't really want it. And especially since it's not vegan or whole food plant-based, we put that off to see if it persists. And then, we went for paella the other day and we couldn't find the restaurant and you got very upset. So that kind of brings us to our next, what is an impulse?
That's the important thing. Actually, before I didn't know about that, but after years, I found for me, my impulse basically based on something new, something I'm curious about. If I see, especially a new food in the new restaurant, then I want it right away. That is where my impulse comes from.
And this particular impulse is what prompted me to really look at what's the difference between a craving and an impulse. We had already bought all of our splurges for our splurge day the next day. And we were walking through the lobby of the hypermarket that we were in. And they had built a new Aunt Annie's pretzels. And I smelt it. As soon as I came into the vicinity. So I was kind of looking around and I was like, oh, look, they just built a new Aunt Annie's pretzels.
Before he said that, I didn't even realize, the thing is, there's a new store, but it's been there for more than a week. Every time when we pass by, I didn't even notice it until you said, oh, smell it. Then I thought, whoa, this pretzel.
And it was their opening day. And what did you do?
I said, wow, I want it. let's get some. Because in my mind, I know the next day is our splurge day. I can't eat anything, right? I totally forgot. We got that day planned already. We got the snacks for the next day.
That's right. And as I wrote in my book, Jacie said, oh, let's get a pretzel now. And she was slurping her drool as she said this. Can we? My wife was turning into a 5-year-old before my very eyes.
That's so much my personality.
It is. And so we got into a huge argument as we were standing there. And of course, the manager didn't help us at all because she came over and said, it's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
And we close in 30 minutes.
Exactly. And then there's no reason not to buy it.
Yeah.
Right?
And my wife went crazy with, oh, let's buy one, let's buy one. And I said, no, we're not going to, because we already had all of our splurges for the next day. We had already planned out our splurge day. And so it made me angry. And I reacted very badly. And we got to an argument and we didn't talk for a couple of hours afterwards. When we got home, we eventually did talk about it. And so I started thinking and I started writing down, what's the difference between an impulse and a craving? And I realized, quote, later I determined the reason this had been such an issue of contention. It dawned on me that we had reacted to an impulse, not a craving. And when I say we, I actually mean you. Me. But anyway, back to the quote, there is a huge difference. We do give into cravings, we satisfy them. To deny cravings is to diminish willpower. Impulse, the inclination advertisers count on in all of us, is the total opposite. To give in to impulse is to detract from our willpower. And so it confused us because I knew that we should give into our cravings. I knew that our bodies would be asking for certain things as we were fasting. So we give into our cravings. So Jacie kind of surprised me when she was begging for this pretzel like a 5-year-old. She had never had an Aunt Annie's pretzel, so she didn't even know what it was.
That's a total impulse for sure. I was so curious about it. I had never had it since the next day is a splurge day. Why not? And it has discount, And
it was discounted.
I basically convinced myself to surrender to my impulse.
And we're all familiar with impulses because children have impulses. They very rarely have cravings because their body hasn't been deprived really of much to have cravings. I told my daughter, if you whine and cry and kick, because this is what young children do, they whine for something. And the advertisers put the most sugary and desirable stuff in the checkout lanes. You see it in the checkout lanes. And if you buy gum at that point, you're giving into an impulse. It's not a craving because you just saw that gum. It's right there. And the advertisers plan on that. It's high profit, sugary impulse buying. And we call it impulse buying. And children will kick and scream and whine and cry and yell and just make a total idiot. And I want to be politically correct here, but they make a spectacle of themselves to get what they want. So I told my daughter, if you whine or cry or beg, you're not going to get it. If you ask nicely and accept that you may or may not get it, you eventually will get it. And so she would ask, can I have the gum, Dad? No. Next time, can I have the gum, Dad? No. Can I have the gum, Dad? No. And then eventually I would say, yes, you can have the gum. And I would give it to her. And she learned very quickly not to whine and cry for me, but with her mother, who she was living with at the time, she would get what she wanted by doing that kind of stuff.
Well, then we were talking about the kids. Now kids have to beg, they have to cry for what they want. But for adults, it's even harder for us to get rid of the impulse because we have money, so we can't satisfy ourselves right away. We can have the instant gratification, right?
Instant gratification.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's hard for adults to know what the difference between impulse and cravings is because we give into our impulses.
Yeah. When
we see a Burger King advertisement on a billboard for a bacon double cheeseburger, if I could get to a Burger King before that impulse went away, I would go to a Burger King and buy the bacon double cheeseburger right then and there. And that's why I got fat and borderline obese, because I would give into these impulses. So as adults, when we give into these impulses, we don't know the difference.
Yeah, because we can't. So we will go get it.
And every day we give into them, and every day we get fatter.
We get weaker and weaker.
And we get weaker and weaker, and we get unhealthier and unhealthier. So we need to learn the difference. In my book, I again write, Impulse is immediate and ephemeral.
What is ephemeral?
Ephemeral means it lasts only a short time. And so I
You
say that
explained
in
there. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. So back to my quote, it lasts only a short time, usually only while we throw our tantrum if denied. Unquote. Quite frankly, we have our own tantrums, even if we're alone. And I can't get to a Burger King. I think to myself, I want that bacon double cheeseburger. And I think, the Burger King is way back the other way. I want to get home and have another impulse. I want to have my beer or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I have my own little tantrum. In my mind, darn it, I can't believe I can't have that. So
like for my NAN pretzel also. I couldn't get it. So
you threw your little tantrum. You threw your little tantrum when we couldn't get the paella for the seafood.
Yeah, but that's my craving.
And that's how they're very similar.
Yeah.
Is we want it, and when we're denied, we feel bad about it. We feel upset. So so anyways, back to the quote. Later we forget all about it. The impulse. We're talking about impulse now. Most of us never think about chocolate eggs until we see them in the checkout lane. Then they become the most important food item with which we have ever been confronted. Impulse is temptation. We are tempted by that pretty chocolate egg package or by the wonderful aroma, as in the instance of the Aunt Annie's pretzels. If it is on sale or discounted, most of us go into a frenzy of desire.
That's me.
So advertisers, companies use your weakness in these impulses to get you to buy their product. So it is very, very important to know the difference. One impulse that I remember, we were talking about cravings, and I mentioned, if you want a Krispy Kreme donut, you'll want it for a long time, and then on the splurge day you can have it. And you immediately said, "Okay, I want a Krispy Kreme donut for our splurge day." And you remembered that. Actually, I helped you remember it because I wanted to make sure that we give in to our cravings. And since you had said that it was your craving, this was before I realized the difference between an impulse and a craving. I wanted you to have it. So Friday, I said, "Okay, are we going to go get a Krispy Kreme donut to fulfill your craving?" You were like, yeah, let's go get it. But afterwards, I realized that it was just an impulse.
Yeah, because again, I never had that Krispy Kreme donut before. It's because you mentioned it. Then I think my brain tricked myself to believe my impulse is craving. But at that time I didn't know what's the difference between impulse and craving, right?
That is correct.
So that's why I want to ask you the question: can we really trick our minds to believe an impulse is a craving, so we can justify, what we do?
That's a great question. Our brains are amazing organs, and they do amazingly deceptive things to us. We deceive ourselves. And really, quite frankly, if you're worried right now about the difference between impulses and cravings, and you're interested in fasting, you're interested in doing this for health.
Yeah.
And it's really for you. So if you convince yourself that an impulse is a craving, which we can do, I mean, whether you set your alarm clock on your phone or whether you mentally set an alarm clock that every day at noon you're going to remember a Snickers bar, and so by the time you get to a week later you've remembered it every day, we can do that to ourselves. But if you're honest with yourself, then there's no reason to do that.
Exactly.
If you remember it, if you see it, you want it, or if you smell it, you want it, and then you walk away and you forget about it and never really think about it again. It was an impulse. If you do continue to remember it or walk past it every day, because we actually walked past the Aunt Annie's
many times.
Yeah, because it was in the store that we frequent.
Yeah.
So we saw it. We eventually gave into it, even though it probably still was an impulse. And quite frankly, Aunt Annie's pretzels are disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean,
in some way, actually, it's good that we taste it because we don't want it anymore.
Yeah. And they're so bad for you that I actually got a cramp. I got a muscle cramp right after doing it. And with pretzels, it was our splurge day. So with pretzels, we can drink beer. And so beer and pretzels and dipped in mustard are not the beer, the pretzels dipped in mustard are wonderful. So that's how I had it. And I had two Aunt Annie's pretzels that day, that splurge day. And shortly after that, I got a muscle cramp and I was sick to my stomach. And I realized, a lot of people say, well, that was the beer because I love Aunt Annie's pretzels. I'm sorry. The next week I drank beer to see if it was the beer. It wasn't. I didn't get cramps after that. I hadn't had cramps before that. So it was the Aunt Annie's pretzel.
Another thing is that's how our brain was so smart to trick us, because before I really ate that pretzel, in my imagination, it was so good. It looks good. It smells good, So my imagination is it must taste good. But then when I really had the first bite of it, I regretted it right away. I was like, it's not like what I thought. But that's how my mind was trying to telling me and trying to trick me, right?
Yes, I agree 100%. Even with the mustard and the beer, the Aunt Annie's pretzel was very disappointing. And the fact that I had a bodily reaction to it, an adverse reaction to it, I will never have an Aunt Annie's pretzel again.
Okay, so now, since now we know what is impulse, what is craving, is it possible that an impulse can become craving or vice versa,
Vice versa.
Yeah.
Actually, it can. I mean, we've already talked about the cravings can go away. And impulses, you see a Snickers, but your body doesn't really say, I want a Snickers. Maybe it says, I want the theobromine. I think I'm saying that right, but the compound that is in the chocolate, because we eat raw cacao for this
certain nutrition,
and we get a lot of nutrition from it. So maybe our body's craving that. Maybe it's the peanuts, something in the peanuts, the protein or whatever. And so our impulse for a Snickers, we may satisfy that with eating peanuts. That's a good question. So I think the answer is yes. Actually, the next quote might answer that. We're still talking about impulses. We must have that morsel all to ourselves. We are weak animals. We either give in or regret for a short time or protest like Jacie did. However, an impulse is in our monkey mind, ever flitting from topic to topic. We disregard our impulse with the next new shiny idea. We forget it so entirely that an outside force must act on us in order to remember it, like seeing it again or hearing the utterance of its name, unquote, like in an advertisement. If you keep on seeing an advertisement for a double bacon cheeseburger, even though it's the worst thing you could probably ever eat, you keep on seeing it, that impulse could become a craving. Yeah. And your brain just has tricked you into believing that it is a craving. Okay, so then, quote, impulse is our inner child released from the reptilian brain to wreak havoc in the life of anyone foolish enough to stand in our way, unquote, like I was foolish enough to stand in your way of the Aunt Annie's
pretzel.
Yeah. And I know that it was different because when I didn't stand in the way for the Krispy Kreme donut, I didn't pay anything. But for this time, I paid hell for standing in the way of
protest. I want the pretzel.
Jacie and Aunt Annie.
Okay.
So then, quote, when we surrender to an impulse, it does not disappear. The next time we see that item, we want it more. If uncontrolled and indulged, impulses will dominate and destroy us. Like Snickers bars did to me in China. Because in China, maybe in America you can get these, but I could get buckets full of Snickers bars, the little fun size Snickers bar, and I would end up eating the entire bucket within a couple of days. And then the next time we went back to the store, I would fulfill that impulse again and buy more and eat more. And it just became this uncontrollable spiral downwards into overweight and obesity. If we give into an impulse, it's bad. So we have to fight the impulse. That's why you don't see a Snickers bar and buy it right away. You wait for a couple of days. If you continue to think about that Snickers bars, then you do give into the craving because maybe your body needs something. So we always give into our cravings, but we always fight the impulse.
Yeah.
It's important to remember this because this will change your life, really. It'll change your life for the better, as will fasting, a whole food plant-based diet, and exercise. What is the solution? As I write in my book, quote, so now that both my wife and I understand the difference between an impulse and a craving, we have fewer problems when faced with either inevitability. But also we understand which to satisfy and which to deny. And hopefully the listener does also. We fight our impulses. We stand firm against them. Eventually we give into our cravings.
And also we help each other. Like when I got controlled by my impulse, at least my husband can help me to fight against it. So that is important. Sometimes vice versa. Sometimes I help you, to fight against your impulse.
Absolutely. And that's why we have fewer problems. We had a problem at with the Aunt Annie incident because we didn't know that we should fight our impulses. True. We just believed we should give into our cravings. And if we see something we want, we didn't know the difference. And so we thought it's a craving and I want it and we'll get it now. But that's not the case. So we have helped each other and it's made a lot less friction. But getting back to the quote, when we come in contact with temptation of impulse, we force ourselves to walk away. If the feeling persists over time, we accept it as a craving. And we know that one day we will have the object of our desire. Yielding to impulse makes our resolve weaker. Succumbing to a craving strengthens our temperament as the urge dissipates.
Dissipates.
And it will dissipate. And as I say in my book, quote, whatever you do, do not give in to impulse. However, if a craving persists, enjoy until you do not enjoy it anymore. The healthier we get, the quicker that happens. So we drink our allowed beverages and dream of our next craving, deprivation be damned. And I end that in an exclamation point. So deprivation be damned. We're not going to be deprived, whether it's an impulse or a craving, because we can have the impulses on our splurge day. We just have to wait. And we can have our cravings on eating days or splurge days. But they go away. The healthier we get, the less we have to fulfill these cravings and impulses because our body is getting all the
good nutrition we need. And I
vitamins
noticed,
and minerals.
Yes, I noticed that before we started fasting, we crave for bad food. Those cravings are more towards to bad food, unhealthy food. But now, if we have craving, it's basically towards to some maybe nutrition stuff or mineral we need for our body. That's why I want corn. Maybe I want seafood because there's something in the seafood that I want. It's not seafood itself, but the nutrition in it.
That's right. We crave healthy things. Like I crave the bananas we're about to break our fast with.
Radish. And
I crave radishes. They're in the refrigerator right now. Avocado sitting there on the table. We crave these things and we give into our cravings. We fight our impulse. You can learn more about superfasting. You can learn more about impulses and cravings in my book. And as I said, if you purchase it from kobo.com, I will give you 1 hour personalized video consultation for free. Then you can read the book. You can start fasting. You can ask questions of me. We'll tell you how to get in contact with us. Join our community, watch our videos, get a membership to SuperFast, superfit.com, and spread the word to help other people superfast. And this will help you be healthy. And as I said, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so you can hear new podcasts as they come out. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them written or voice comments. We may feature it on our next podcast. And make a New Year's resolution. Buy yourself a Christmas gift
for you and for your friends.
SuperHealth. That's what you wanna buy. Last but not least, become our friend on social media. I will put the links in the description below. Do you have any final words?
To sum up, number 1, be true to yourself, true to your body. Notice your body, notice the change of your body. Number 2, try to help yourself to to tell the difference between impulse and the craving. And even though when you're craving for something, don't go crazy and get a lot of stuff for yourself for one splurge day, because it will end up with the whole week become
Will be a splurge day.
Yes.
If you have our personality, the whole week will become splurge day. So we have to control it. All right.
Hope you enjoy this podcast. Hope you learn a lot, like what we have learned in all of these 5 years.
You can learn from us and our mistakes.
Yes, that's true.
With that said, see you next week.
See you next week.
You have been listening to the SuperFast Podcast with M. David Peterson and
Jacie Peterson.